Tell her mom said she's easier without, my mother whispered into the phone, like I wasn't standing 3 feet away. I froze on the entryway rug, still wearing my steel-toe clogs from the imaging center, my badge swinging against my chest. My overnight shift had ended an hour ago. My brain was fog and fluorescent light. But that sentence cut through everything. "Carol," I said, voice low, "who are you talking to?" My mom's eyes flicked to me, then away. She covered the mouthpiece with her palm and smiled the smile she uses at church. "Go wash up, Tess. You look worn out." I didn't move. "Where's Maya?" The kitchen sounded wrong too lively for 712A. Coffee grinder, syrup bottle, my sister's laugh, bright and performative, a zipper, the clack of scissors. My mom kept her hand over the phone. "She's fine." That's when I saw it. Maya's purple sneakers, the ones with the glitter straps, sitting by the back door, empty, untied, like she'd stepped out of them mid-run. My stomach dropped. If she's fine, why are her shoes here? My mom's smile tightened. Because she didn't need them. I started down the hall without asking permission. Because mothers don't ask permission to find their kids. Maya's door was open. Her room looked like someone had erased her. The bed was stripped to a bare mattress. The mermaid comforter was folded into a laundry basket like a dirty secret. Her drawings, sunny crayon rainbows, lopsided cats were gone from the walls, leaving pale rectangles where tape had been. Her nightlight was unplugged. Her backpack hook was empty. On her desk sat a stack of printouts. Beige living rooms, spotless shelves, a minimalist aesthetic mood board with the word sarin highlighted in marker. Beside it, a ring light box was already open, foam torn out like it had been unwrapped with excitement. My sister Bree leaned in the doorway, filming herself on her phone. "Morning, besties," she chirped to her camera, then lowered it just enough to look at me. "Oh, you're home. Where is my daughter?" I said. Bree blinked. All innocence. "Which one?" My hands went cold. "Don't do that," she sighed, like I was ruining her content. "Relax. She's with her dad." My ears rang. "Derek?" From behind me, my father's heavy steps approached. He stopped at my shoulder like a bouncer. "It's been decided," he said. I turned slowly. "Decided by who?" My mom appeared at the end of the hall, dish towel in hand, phone still to her ear. "We talked as a family," she said into the call, and I realized she wasn't whispering anymore. She wanted whoever was listening to hear me. "Yes, she's taking it well." "Hang up," I said. My mom finally ended the call and tucked the phone into her pocket like she'd pocketed a weapon. No need for drama. "Where is Maya?" Each word landed like a step. My mom lifted her chin. "We don't have to run every decision past you, Tessa." My throat tightened. "You took my child while I was at work." My dad crossed his arms. "You're never here." "I'm never here because I'm paying for all of this," I snapped before I could stop myself. The hallway went quiet, not because they were shocked, but because they were listening for weakness. Bree slid past me into Maya's room and ran her hand along the empty wall. "This space is going to look so clean on camera," she murmured. That's when the reality hit. This wasn't about Derek. Derek was just the delivery address. "You sent her away so Bree can have a studio," I said. My mom's eyes softened the way they do when she's about to say something cruel in a gentle voice. "It's not like that. It's about stability." "Stability?" I laughed, sharp and ugly. "You mean the guy who can't remember her birthday is stable?" My dad's jaw clenched. "He's her father, biologically." My mom stepped closer, lowering her voice like she was helping me. "You work nights, doubles, weekends. Maya needs a home where someone is awake." "I arranged my schedule," I said. "You begged me to take this job because you said you'd help." My mom's eyes flashed. And we did. For years. Bree chimed in, sweet as poison. "But your kid is loud, Tess. And I'm building something. We all have to sacrifice." I stared at them, my parents. My sister standing in my daughter's doorway like gatekeepers of her life. Then my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number popped up, followed by a photo. Maya, sitting on a couch I didn't recognize, shoulders hunched, a blanket pulled to her chin. Her eyes were red. A woman's hand, long nails, wedding ring rested on her head like a claim. The caption read, "She's safe. Stop making this hard." My blood went hot. Who texted me this? My mom didn't answer fast enough. And that was the detail that didn't fit. My mom looked relieved, like something had finally been handled. I backed into the hallway, breathing through my nose, forcing my hands to stop shaking. "You told her I didn't want her," I said. Not a question. My mom's lips pressed together. Children adjust. It's easier if they don't cling. Something in me went cold and clean. I walked past them, into my bedroom, and pulled open the bottom drawer where I kept the folder I hated looking at. The deed. The loan papers. My name printed in ink that had saved them and trapped me. I slid the folder into my bag, zipped it, and walked back into the hallway. They were still standing there, waiting for me to beg. I didn't. "I want everyone out of my house in 30 days, I said. Bree's face fell first, like a mask slipping. My dad's mouth opened, then shut. My mom stared at me as if I'd spoken in another language. "That's not your house," she said finally, voice sharp. "That's our home." I met her eyes. "Not on paper." My mom's smile returned small, certain. "You won't do it." I didn't argue. I walked out the front door, got into my car, and dialed Derek, straight to voicemail. I drove anyway, because sitting still would have turned into panic. And as the sun came up, one thought kept repeating in my head. If they could take her once, they'd do it again unless I made sure they couldn't. Derek's mother answered on the first ring, like she'd been waiting. "Tessa," she said, voice calm enough to be scary. "Where's Maya?" I asked, gripping the steering wheel so hard my fingers ached. "My parents said she's with Derek." He won't answer. A pause. A soft inhale. "Maya is here." Relief punched through me, then vanished when she added, "And she will stay here for now." My stomach flipped. "Excuse me?" "She needs consistency," she said. "Not a mother who sleeps all day and disappears all night." I laughed once, breathless. "I'm a CT tech. I'm keeping people alive long enough for doctors to fix them. Don't lecture me about disappearing." Her tone didn't change. "Your family brought her. They said you agreed." "I didn't," I said, and my voice cracked on the word. "I came home and she was gone." Another pause. Then, "Come if you want, but don't make a scene. Maya's already upset." The line went dead. I pulled into their neighborhood 20 minutes later, tires crunching gravel in a driveway lined with perfect shrubs, the kind of house that looked like it had rules. I knocked, once, twice, harder. The door opened 3 inches. Nora, Derek's mom, stood there with the chain still latched, eyes scanning me like a security camera. "You look exhausted," she said, like exhaustion was a moral failure. "Let me see my child." Behind her, the house was too quiet. Quiet like someone small was sitting very still. Nora's jaw tightened. "Derek isn't home." "Shocking," I muttered. Then, louder, "Maya, is she okay?" Nora's gaze didn't soften. "She's safe." "Then let me in." She hesitated just long enough to make it a power move, then unlatched the chain. The door swung open and I stepped inside, heart thundering. Maya was at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug like it was the only warm thing in the world. Her hair was still in yesterday's braids. Her cheeks were blotchy. She didn't run to me. She looked at me like she wasn't sure I was allowed to be real. "Maya," I whispered, dropping to my knees beside her. Her lip trembled. "Grandma Carol said you didn't want me anymore." My chest tightened so fast it hurt. I looked up. Nora stood by the doorway, arms folded. Beside her was Walt Derek's stepdad, tall, silent, watching me like he was deciding what kind of person I was. "That's a lie," I said to Maya, keeping my voice steady even though my throat was on fire. "Baby, I came home and you were gone. I've been trying to reach you all morning. Maya's eyes filled. She said you were tired. She said you voted. My stomach turned. They said that? Maya nodded once, tiny and broken. She said everyone agreed I should live here because you're too busy. I pulled her into my arms. At first, she stayed stiff, like she was afraid hugging me would get her in trouble. Then her arms wrapped around my neck, cautious, shaking, and I held her like my body could build a wall. Walt cleared his throat. She cried when she got here, he said quietly. Nora shot him a look, but he didn't back down. She kept asking what she did wrong. Nora's mouth tightened. We assumed you knew. You assumed wrong, I said, and my voice came out colder than I expected. I pulled back enough to look at Maya's face. Did Derek say anything to you? Maya shook her head. He wasn't here. Grandma Nora said he'd come later. Of course. A sour anger rose in me, but I swallowed it. Maya didn't need my rage. She needed my certainty. I'm taking her home, I said, standing. Nora's eyes narrowed. Home? To that house where she's an inconvenience? Walt spoke before she could keep going. Nora. I kept my hand on Maya's shoulder. Home is wherever I am, and right now it's not my parents' house. Nora's gaze flicked, sharp. So you finally admit you can't handle it alone. That's not what I said. She stepped closer, voice turning sweet. We're not your enemies, Tessa. We're thinking of Maya. Derek made mistakes, but he's still her father. A child deserves both sides. Walt's eyes shifted away like the word deserves bothered him. I grabbed Maya's little backpack from beside the chair. It was stuffed like someone had packed it in a hurry. One pajama set, a toothbrush still in plastic, a random sock with no match. Another detail that didn't fit. Nora's house was neat, but this bag was chaos, like it had been thrown together by someone else. My mother. I crouched again, face level with Maya. We're leaving, I said softly. You're safe with me, okay? Maya's fingers clutched my sleeve. Are they gonna send me back? No, I said, and meant it so hard my teeth hurt. No one gets to move you around like luggage. In the car, Maya held my hand so tight it went numb. I didn't let go. I didn't drive back to my parents' place. Not after seeing her room stripped. Not after hearing the words they put in her head. I drove to a hotel off the highway beige walls. Anonymous carpet. The kind of place that didn't belong to anyone. Perfect. Maya climbed onto the bed with her shoes still on and stared at the blank TV screen. Are we in trouble? She asked. That question hit me harder than any insult my mother had ever thrown. No, I said, sitting beside her. We're getting out of trouble. I ordered fries and grilled cheese because that's what she eats when she's scared. I ran a bath. I found the softest towel. I kept my voice normal, like normal could glue her back together. When she finally fell asleep, curled against my side, I checked my phone. 32 missed calls. Texts from my mom. Come home. Stop being dramatic. From my dad. You're humiliating us. From Bree. You can't evict family, lol. And one message from Derek's number at 2:14 a.m. Sent while I was still working. Your mom said you're done. I'll take her. I stared at it until my eyes burned. Because now I knew the secret under the family vote. They didn't just send Maya away. They offered her up. I didn't sleep. At 8:03 a.m., I sat in a law office that smelled like coffee and printer ink, while Maya colored at a side table with crayons that had been chewed by 100 nervous kids. Mr. Harlan, the attorney, flipped through my folder slowly. The deed. The refinance documents. The payment history with my name next to every month. He looked up. The house is yours. My lungs loosened like they'd been clenched for years. So I can make them leave. Yes, he said. You can issue a formal notice and begin eviction proceedings, because legally, they're tenants. Even saying the word felt wrong. My parents weren't tenants in my head. They were gravity. They were the reason I apologized when someone else stepped on my foot. Mr. Harlan tapped a page. How did you end up with the house in your name? I gave him the short version because the long version would have turned into a confession. 3 years ago, my parents were drowning. Back taxes, credit cards. A second mortgage they pretended didn't exist. They framed it as temporary, a paperwork thing. I had good credit. They didn't. They promised childcare. They promised a home. So, I signed. I paid. I saved the roof over everyone's head. And the moment the crisis passed, they started treating Maya like the price they'd paid. Mr. Harlan didn't flinch. He'd seen this movie. "We'll file for an emergency custody order as well," he said, pen moving. "Given that they removed your child without consent and made false statements to third parties, a judge will not love that." My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Another text. A screenshot, this time my mother messaging Nora. "She's overreacting. Don't let her take Maya. Tessa needs a wake-up call." My stomach twisted. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a strategy. Maya looked up from her coloring. "Mom?" I forced a smile. "I'm right here, sweetheart." Mr. Harlan's gaze sharpened. "Do you know who sent that?" "My mother," I said, and the words tasted like metal. He nodded once, like he'd been waiting for me to stop making excuses for them. "We'll include it." By noon, he had papers ready. Eviction notice, no trespass warning, custody filings. He slid them across the desk, like he was handing me a door key. "Once they're served," he said, "expect backlash. They'll say you're ungrateful. They'll say they raised you. They'll say family doesn't do this." I swallowed. Family doesn't vote a child out. He didn't smile, but his eyes softened a fraction. "Exactly." I left the office, picked up Maya's little hand, and felt something settle in my chest. Fear, yes, but also direction. Back at the hotel, I called my supervisor and took a leave. Then I did the thing that felt like swallowing glass. I told Maya's school not to release her to anyone but me. I emailed photos of my parents, Bree, Derek. I hated it. Hated that I had to do it. But I hated the alternative more. Maya watched me type. "Am I in trouble with the principal?" she asked. "No," I said quickly. "This is just a safety rule, like wearing a seatbelt." She thought about that, then asked the question kids ask when they're trying not to cry. Why would Grandma Carol lie? Because lying gets her what she wants, I thought. But I didn't hand that ugliness to my daughter. "Sometimes adults tell stories to make themselves feel right," I said. "But you don't have to carry their story. You only have to know the truth. I want you. Always." Maya nodded, but her fingers kept worrying the hem of her shirt, a tiny repetitive motion that told me her body still didn't believe the words yet. That afternoon, I drove to the house. I didn't go inside. I didn't want Maya to see her room like that again. I parked across the street and watched. Bree's car was in the driveway. My parents' curtains moved. They were home, comfortable, because they still believed comfort belonged to them. At 4:17 p.m., a process server walked up with a thick envelope and knocked. My mom opened the door in her sweater set, smiling like she was about to greet a neighbor. Then she saw the envelope. Even from across the street, I saw the shift smile to suspicion to rage. She snatched the papers, shut the door, then yanked it open again to shout something I couldn't hear. The process server walked away calmly. 2 minutes later, my phone exploded. I let it ring, because the strange detail that had been nagging me since morning finally clicked. My mother hadn't been surprised that the house was in my name. She'd been confident I would never use it. She thought she owned my guilt the way she thought she owned my child. At 4:29 p.m., Bree texted, "You're really doing this? After everything we've done for you?" At 4:30 p.m., my dad called. When I didn't answer, he left a voicemail that started with a sigh like he was the victim and ended with, "Come home and act like an adult." I listened once, then deleted it. Maya sat beside me in the car, sipping apple juice. "Are we going back?" she asked quietly. I looked at the house, my house where my daughter's room had become a beige mood board. "Not yet," I said. "We're making it safe first." She nodded like she understood more than an 8-year-old should. That night, Maya finally slept without clinging to my shirt, and I finally allowed myself to think one step ahead. Because eviction papers were one thing, but my parents weren't scared of paperwork. They were scared of losing control. And when people like that feel control slipping, they don't get kinder. Before we hit the next part, do me a favor. Tap like, subscribe, and stay with me, because what my mother did after getting those papers flipped everything upside down. The hospital was the last place I expected them to show up. I went in for one short shift, just to keep my job secure, while Maya stayed with my friend Janelle, who'd already installed extra locks without me asking. At 10:36 a.m., I was walking past the radiology desk when I heard my name, loud and sharp. Tessa! I turned and there they were. My mother in a tailored coat, my father beside her, Bree trailing with her phone out like she was ready to record. My mom slapped the eviction notice onto the counter. Explain this, she demanded, loud enough for patients to look up. A man in a wheelchair stared. A nurse froze mid-step. Security's head lifted at the end of the hall. I stepped forward, shoulders square. Not here. My mom leaned in, voice rising. Oh, now you want privacy. After you attacked your own family. I didn't attack anyone, I said. I set a boundary. My dad jabbed a finger toward me. You stole our home. I blinked slowly. You asked me to put it in my name. My mom's eyes flashed. Temporary. You knew it was temporary. It's been 3 years, I said. How long is temporary to you? Bree cut in, smiling like she was being reasonable. We just need the room back, Tess. Maya can stay with Derek until you get your life together. My heart thudded. You're still talking like she's a package. My mom's voice softened, syrupy. We're thinking of her. A child deserves structure. And you're unpredictable. Unpredictable. Because I wasn't obeying. Bree angled her phone toward me and the radiology sign, whispering. Say hi to my followers. Mom's fighting for a child's stability today. My stomach flipped. Put it away, I said. She pouted. Transparency matters. No, I said, stepping closer. You're hunting attention, and you're using my kid as bait. My mom jumped in fast, tone sweet. She's just documenting, in case you twist the story. I stared at her. You're the one who twists stories. You told an 8-year-old I didn't want her. My dad's voice thundered. Lower your voice. I turned my head toward the waiting area where an elderly woman was clutching paperwork with shaking hands. I'm not the one yelling in a hospital, I said. You are. The security guard had moved closer now, posture alert, eyes on Bree's phone. I took a step back, angled my body so staff could see me clearly, and kept my voice even. Hospital calm. You have 5 minutes. Then, security escorts you out. My mom scoffed. Listen to you, acting like you're in charge. I am, I said. Of my child. My dad shoved the papers at me again. If you do this, you'll destroy us. I glanced at the waiting area, at the patient flyers about stress and family violence, and I felt something settle clean and final. You destroyed yourselves, I said. When you told my daughter I didn't want her, my mom's face twitched. We never said. Maya's voice echoed in my head. Grandma Carol said you didn't want me anymore. I cut her off. Don't lie in a building full of people trained to read vital signs. Bree's phone lifted higher. Say that again, she whispered, hungry. That was the detail that made my skin crawl. She wanted footage. She wanted to turn my daughter into an episode. I stepped closer to Bree, just enough that she had to look at me instead of her screen. If you record me or my child again, I said, my lawyer will make sure the internet is the least of your problems. Her smile faltered. My mom's voice sharpened. Your lawyer? Wow. So dramatic. Dramatic is stealing a child at dawn, I said. My dad's face reddened. We were trying to help. No, I said. You were trying to control. My mom's eyes turned glassy, like she was about to perform tears. After everything we sacrificed for you. Stop, I said, and my voice didn't shake. You didn't sacrifice. You took. She inhaled, then lowered her voice like a confession. You would have lost Maya anyway. My blood went cold. What does that mean? My mom's gaze flicked to my dad. Bree froze, phone still raised. My dad cleared his throat. It's complicated. My mouth went dry. What did you do? My mom smiled small, triumphant. We filed paperwork, she said, for guardianship, just in case you kept acting unstable. The hallway tilted. They weren't just punishing me, they were building a legal trap. My hand stayed steady. But inside, I was counting consequences. Guardianship meant they were telling a court I was unfit. It meant a judge could hand them emergency power while I was at work, while Maya was at school, while I was sleeping. It meant my mother had been planning this longer than this morning. And then another wrong detail clicked. My mom was carrying a second folder under her coat. Not the eviction notice folder, different color, thicker, corners worn like she'd been rehearsing it. She hadn't come to talk. She'd come to intimidate me on my turf, in front of witnesses, hoping I'd break, Bree whispered. This is going to be crazy views, like the sentence alone made my skin crawl. I took one slow breath and reminded myself, panic is what they feed on. Security was closer now, watching. Staff eyes were on us. I forced air into my lungs. You filed for guardianship of my child. My mom lifted her chin. For her own good. I stared at her and realized the truth I'd been dodging my whole life. My mother didn't love. She managed. She managed people like assets. And now she'd decided my daughter was an asset worth managing. I took the papers from her hand, not to read them, Mr. Harlan would read them, but to stop her from waving them like a trophy. You're done, I said quietly. You're all done. My mom's eyes narrowed. You can't stop us. I stepped back and nodded to security. Yes, I can. They were escorted out, still arguing, still insisting they were the victims. I didn't let them see my fear. I kept my face blank, my voice level, because the moment I looked desperate, my mother would call it proof. This was the game. Provoke me, label me, take my child. But as my mother turned at the doors, she called out one last line that followed me like smoke. Maya will come back to us. She always does. I stood there shaking, then walked into an empty supply room and called Mr. Harlan. When he answered, I didn't waste words. They filed for guardianship. His tone hardened instantly. Okay, we move faster. And that's when I knew Part 5 wouldn't be about eviction anymore. It would be about a war over my child. Mr. Harlan got an emergency hearing set within days. While he worked, I worked too quietly, relentlessly. I gathered everything. My work schedules, childcare receipts, Maya's school attendance, screenshots of my mother's messages, Derek's text saying my mom told him I was done, and a written statement from Walt about Maya arriving sobbing. The night before court, Maya crawled into bed with me at Janelle's place and whispered, They can't take me, right? I held her face between my hands. No one can take you from me, I said. Not unless I let them. In the morning, the courthouse smelled like old paper and cold air. My parents sat on one side, dressed like a picture of respectability. Bree wore a blazer and looked bored. My mom clutched a folder like she was holding the truth. Derek didn't show. Of course he didn't. Halfway through the hearing, the judge asked why Derek wasn't present. My mother didn't miss a beat. He's working, she said, like that explained everything. Mr. Harlan's jaw tightened. We subpoenaed him. He chose not to appear. The judge wrote something down, slow and deliberate. That pen stroke felt louder than any argument. Then my mother pulled out her final card. She'd contacted Child Protective Services and waved an incident report like a badge. Mr. Harlan immediately handed the judge the call record showing it was screened out as unsubstantiated. The judge's eyes hardened. My mom's performance finally hit a wall. When our case was called, my knees wanted to buckle. I kept them straight. The judge, a woman with tired eyes, listened as Mr. Harlan spoke. He didn't get emotional. He got specific. He showed the deed with my name, the payments, the texts, The screenshot of my mom telling Nora not to let me take Maya. The message where my mom called me unstable because I wouldn't obey. Then he asked Nora and Walt to testify. Nora tried to sound neutral. We believed the child would be better here for a while. I fielded. The judge's eyebrow lifted. Based on what? Nora hesitated. The maternal grandmother's statements. Walt's turn came. He stood, hands clasped, voice steady. That little girl thought her mother didn't want her, he said. She asked what she did wrong. My mother's mouth tightened, but she didn't look at him. The judge looked directly at my mom. Did you tell the child her mother didn't want her? My mom's voice went soft, practiced. We said her mother was tired. We said it would be easier if she stayed elsewhere temporarily. We were trying to protect her feelings. By lying to her, the judge said flatly. My mom's eyes glistened. We were trying to protect her from abandonment. I couldn't stay silent. You created the abandonment, I said, and my voice carried. The judge held up a hand, but she looked at me. Miss Grant, she said, reading my name. What do you want? I swallowed. I want my daughter safe. I want my parents and sister to stop using her to punish me. The judge nodded slowly. Then we're going to address that. She denied their guardianship petition on the spot. She issued a temporary order granting me sole physical custody, with strict instructions. My parents could not contact Maya or remove her from school. Bree could not film or post anything involving the child. My mother's face went blank like a screen shutting off. Outside the courtroom, my dad hissed, You'll regret this. I didn't answer. I held Maya's hand and kept walking. 2 weeks later, the eviction process finished faster than I expected, because once my lawyer filed, my parents realized a judge wasn't going to rescue them. They moved into a cramped rental across town. Bree went with them, complaining the whole time, because she'd never learned to live without someone else carrying the cost. I didn't take Maya back to that house right away. Instead, I rented it out to a quiet couple with a dog and a boring job, and I used the rent to start over in a smaller place, closer to Maya's school. I switched to a day shift administrative role at the imaging center. Less money, more sleep, more dinners at the table. I chose stability the way my mother pretended to. Maya didn't heal overnight. She asked the same question for months. Are you sending me away again? Every time, I answered the same way. No. I'm here. I choose you. Some nights, Maya would still wake up and check the door lock before crawling back into bed. So I built routines on purpose. Friday pizza, Sunday pancakes, because predictability is the opposite of fear. The twist I didn't expect came from Nora and Walt. One Sunday, Walt called my phone. His voice was careful. We'd like to see Maya, he said. Only if you're comfortable. And only if she wants. I waited for the manipulation. It didn't come. Nora showed up with a book and a small bag of art supplies. She didn't criticize my apartment. She didn't hint at custody. She just sat on the floor and let Maya decide how close was safe. Over time, Maya started laughing in their living room. Not the nervous laugh she used around my parents. A real one. Derek stayed absent. His parents didn't excuse him. They just filled the gap the way adults should have from the beginning, quietly, consistently, without trying to own her. And that's the lesson I keep coming back to. Family isn't the people who say for your own good while stealing your choices. Family is the people who show up and don't make you pay for it. We're not a perfect ending. We're a safer one. And if you've been listening this far, here's what I want to ask you, because this is where people always disagree. If your own parents tried to take your child for stability, would you cut them off completely, or would you give them one more chance? Drop your answer in the comments, share this with someone who needs it, and subscribe, because I promise you, the hardest part isn't winning in court. It's learning to stop calling manipulation family.